Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, and I got a little bit of feedback, a little bit of lag, but we're just gonna get through this. All right. So, and we got ourselves Matt Shapiro, Esquire.
Hello, everybody.
And we got Tim Seavey, Bizolutions, San Diego State.
How's it going?
Yay. All right.
I'm excited about the topic today, Jared.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's good. That's good. I was trying to so I wanted to basically touch upon the last two debates, quote unquote, right? Get some feedback about the town hall idea of scheduling two town halls at the same time, and how does that fit in debate? But then also I heard some stuff about the changes that they're making to the debates and seeing if we think that they're going to work and discussing what we think would make them better. That's what we're doing.
Yes, that is what we are doing.
Yeah.
That's the goal, at least.
So, as I understand it, so the town hall was initially going to be both of them. And then, as I understand, this is kind of, trust the news how you will. But as I understand, Trump said that no, he didn't want to do that. And then saw that Biden was holding a town hall anyways. And so just contacted the news outlets that be and found another one to do another solo town hall. So it was not the original plan to do two simultaneous town halls.
That's good.
Yeah. And so that we got the first of a kind, but I mean, was it better? Does it count?
I think the goal of a presidential debate is not at all to determine which one is better at a debate. Not even a little bit. If anything, you could say the goal is just for the American people to see how candidates feel on certain subjects. But there's supposed to be a degree of interplay. Like the two are supposed to engage and talk about each other's policies with the opportunity to respond, rather than just the mudslinging that happens in any given day's news stories or Twitter or whatever the hell we use these days to communicate. So I think that it really lost that entire point. And it also means that the American people have to split their attention. Unless you got some kind of split screen situation, you have to back and forth bounce between them. And one of them, I'll just say, is a lot more entertaining to watch than the other one, largely because you have no idea what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah.
Not for or against, but it's just more entertaining.
Hey, no, the truth is the truth. I mean, it's like some things are exciting to watch. Some things make good TV, whatever you want to say it. I mean, if you're selling sensationalism and you want to get people's, I mean, I hate to say it. We say things like that, it's like a car accident. You can't not look, right? You don't want to look, but you do.
There's crazy idea. Obviously this is not at all realistic, but if one were a reality TV star or something like that, that's more fun to watch than than.
And there's certain elements of what makes a person a good star there could be parallels to capturing people's attention and the persuasive element of getting people behind you simply by getting exposure or getting in the news. I want to just
more viewers. In the end, there's way high.
What motivation is there? Exactly. If your motivation is to simply capture attention, then the news can be pretty boring when if it's just facts and that's that. I mean, I want to just inject right off the bat that one of the things that we've been talking about, one of the things I read about recently was that the third Nixon and Kennedy debate in 1960 was remote. That was the original reason why I looked it up, because it's interesting that it was synchronous, meaning it was a live, debate. It was a synchronous debate. But one candidate was in LA and one's in New York. So it was really cool. And but beyond the remote aspect, because we could talk about that at some point later, but when you ask what can we do to change the presidential debates to make them better, I thought that it was a good place to start with, maybe comparing it to debates of the past, which maybe have been held in a bit higher prestige. I will first say off the bat, like every presidential debate, at some point, even in Nixon-Kennedy debate, it's pretty much, getting to your talking points. I mean, it feels that way. But I think there are things right off the bat, structurally and rule-wise, I would like to just maybe talk about really quick and say that maybe those could be beneficial to a modern presidential debate.
Yeah, I mean, well, like a lot of people think about the Nixon Kennedy debate. They think about the first televised debate where they're standing on the stage together.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but there's another one where they're debating remotely, and that was really interesting. I posted the link up in the
Yeah, thank you. It's really, I recommend everyone to watch it, because I think it translates quite well to what we would hope to see. And the issues, it's funny because we think, in the coronavirus world and, all the, stuff going on right now, it feels like the end of days and this is as crazy as it's ever been. But it's funny when you listen to the old debates where they're talking about nuclear war and all these, in some respects, it's like they are also worried about just global disaster. And it's funny or refreshing in a weird, cynical way to hear that, like, we're not unique in feeling like, how do you handle this? I mean, that's a part of life, I guess. But back to the rules. So there were some interesting aspects to the format that I really liked about the Nixon-Kennedy debate. The third one, by the way, I'm talking about the third Nixon-Kennedy debate. I believe it took place on October 13, 1960. There was a host, but the host was not a moderator like we are, like our last presidential debate. There's a host who literally just kind of introduces the candidates and the askers. Let's call it the askers of questions. And there's 4 askers. 2 are selected from each candidate's press secretary. I loved this aspect because I thought it increases fairness, right? At least perceived fairness. What do you guys think about that rule by itself? I mean, I just think that any sort of, it seems more fair, no?
They were able to ask a question of their opponent. They chose someone from their own press to ask a question of their opponent.
I hate to be the person who doesn't know, but I will tell you that I tried to watch it as diligently as I could. I believe they were allowed to ask any person anything. I only noticed that every single question they alternate candidates. That's the one thing that is for sure. So, there's no opening and closing statements. It's all question and answer. It was 1 hour long, and they're very much like whoever gets to the last question is the person who ends the hour. That's basically the time constraints. And the last time constraint, I'll try to move on, but was they were allowed to hear the question. They were given 2 minutes and 30 seconds to respond. And the other like Jared, question, you have 2:30. Now, Tim would have 1:30 to make a comment. That's what they called it. The response and a comment. And a comment was 1:30. That seems a lot shorter, right, than the times we're hearing, which is normally like 5 minutes.
I don't know. Oh, really? Was it? They had 5 minutes to.
The first debate was opening statements were longer, but I think each question was only 2 minutes to respond, right?
2 minutes to respond.
Yeah.
So, okay, so maybe, do you remember by chance, the opening statement and closing statement time? I don't remember how to say it, but anyways.
They were between 2 and 5 still. Like, no speech was particularly long.
The Lincoln Douglas debates, like it was like they would speak for
the actual people, Lincoln and Douglas, right?
Yeah, Lincoln, and so they had like 2 hours to speak, and then the other person got like 1 hour to respond, and they did like 6 of these things all across the state. It was something ridiculous like that. You know what I mean? And so, man, like political debates in America have definitely changed over time.
That's nuts.
Man.
So I mean, just to dominate the conversation a little while longer, I thought the rules had a little bit to do with how the candidates approached it. You know what I mean? Like I thought that, you know, for instance, they tried to find as neutral a candidate as neutral reporter as they could, but the askers of the questions in the Kennedy Nixon debate, the third one, were reporters, essentially very esteemed reporters that both press secretaries picked. So it felt like more neutral, at least in my mind, perceptively. And I thought that had a lot to do with maybe the respect level that the candidates give. And that is probably the other, you know, thing I want to talk about is the responses in 2 minutes, for instance. I noticed they had a beginning and an end. I think the ending part is really what I'm focusing on, because in the modern presidential debate, I mean, it feels like they are just trying to fill time. Like they're not going to stop talking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah,
let's ask,
like as far as topics go, I would think that, yeah, you have like those questions are a good way to go about it. I was wondering about like perhaps having debates where the focus only on one topic at a time, like maybe more of them, shorter, just about things. You know what I mean? And people don't feel like they have to tune into every single one.
Yeah.
Because if you just had one thing, it's kind of like, what is your plan for healthcare? You know what I mean? And each
20 minutes on one issue, and then they have 10 of them instead of having, you know, that's an interesting.
And by several days, you know what I mean?
I noticed like at one point even there was some things that I really noticed. I watched it. I even took some notes. I'm gonna I saw some clash. There was a little bit more clash, like we talk about in forensics, you know, where most notably at around minute 13, Richard Nixon literally does a line-by-line refutation, in my opinion. You know, it sounds like a line-by-line refutation of JFK's 2-minute response or whatever. And it was just cool because again, you know, I don't mean to sound super general, but in the debates that I've been hearing more recently, it seems like they kind of, whether they choose to by choice or have no idea what they're doing, they pick a topic they hear a lot in someone's speech. They lock onto one thing and then just speak for their time on that one thing, and they exhaust their point to the point where we're all kind of like, all right, well, you could just stop talking, but they don't want to stop talking. In this one, it was like, not only does the speaker, Nixon in this instance, he's aware of his a minute 30, he kind of gets over one point and goes, and then he said this, and then he gets over the one point and then he says this, and then he goes over another point. And it's like, wow, like he just did in my mind, it was pretty much a 4-point refutation and a line-by-line refutation in a matter of a minute 30. And it was just cool because I'll look again. We'll watch it again tomorrow. But ask yourself, how many times does either candidate, by the way, do a line-by-line refutation of the 3 or 4 different specific topics someone says? How many times does people even bring up 3 specific topics and not just have a stream of conscious on both sides? I mean, I hate to say it. There's no shining star. And I feel like the respect to the game, I wrote that down in my notes here. I felt like then they respected the game of what they're about to go play, this debate, the rules.
Like one thing I liked about that debate was the remote aspect of it.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of how they're going to start muting microphones at this next one. I'm wondering how that's going to go. You know what I mean? Because honestly, in competitive debates, there's never the issue of somebody just speaking over you. You know,
same for the 60s debate. Same for the 60 debate.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Jared, I
think technology could definitely do some benefit there. The muting of the microphone, because I'm wondering if I'm still going to hear, a muffled voice trying to.
Most definitely.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to shout over the top and just project and try and catch the other person's mic. But I'm thinking, how far apart do they put them? Like other ends of a really grand stage? Maybe that's one way to balance it.
In the middle of coronavirus, they were no more than 15 feet apart.
I mean, swear to God, they should debate via Zoom. I just think that's only fair.
Well, it was
everyone has to
criticized.
do everything via Zoom. They should have to debate via Zoom. Because
like actually on Zoom,
like multiple audio inputs at the same time, and it's just a whole mess. And like the moderator can straighten someone.
The
Like
lag that we're experiencing right now, I want them to kind of go, "Hey, what were you saying? What?"
You know what was funny at the very end of the Nixon debate that I keep talking about, the third one, the host comes back and literally says at the very, very end, like, these candidates were given the exact same technical equipment. They had the same exact stage. The lighting was the same. The camera was the same. They did not know the questions. And like they kind of reassure the American people, like there was no advantage. And, I guess technically speaking, do we know that the internet or whatever connection they had at that time was the same? I don't know. But they made a point to say that. I mean, literally at the end of it. And when you watch it, it looks like they're in the same room. I mean, imagine if me and Tim and Jared all had the same color wall and like got rid of these lines. Like we can make it appear like we're next to each other. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what they did. It was cool. And there was a lot of criticism recently about having a remote debate. And when I heard about this Kennedy-Nixon debate, that's what triggered me to get fascinated by it. And
it's nice to see that even way back in the day that there's they're toying with the
synchronous debate.
Yeah, I think that
remote
people got so used to doing it one way on television, like they felt like it was benefit. And now even though the internet's here, that they're not using that in order to help with the formatting of it. I think that like the rules, not just the rules, but the norms have been upended in this last debate.
What do you mean specifically?
Like about respecting the moderator and talking over other people and stuff like that. It just it was
respecting the game that you're playing, right? I think that kind of ties into that.
Beyond like just any sort of games that we've seen beforehand. It's just another level of extreme sort of debating. Yeah.
One thing that I noticed Nixon said was where was it? I have a time for you and everything. Whatever. I don't know where it is. He just brings up how I don't know who will be in the White House, but whoever it is, it will be a person, like no matter their politics, they will be a good person. In essence, that's what he says. Yeah. And I just thought that was, now we're talking about not only respect of the game, of the debate that they're playing. Now they're really talking about respecting the other candidate. Right. And like, and the process, like he's literally saying that like,
do you think the debates can
I did not hear that, Jared.
Though? Do you think that debates can achieve that? You know what I mean? That like what? Can create an environment where stuff like that is said again, or is that?
I don't think that modern debates are particularly meant to be persuasive to specific audiences. So I would really be interested in hearing, kind of like when we talked about in reviewing the first debate, what the polls were immediately for the audience or for some group that was there that was like very engaged the whole thing, pre and post debate, and how certain things like individual point refutation, where it's like I just pick this one piece out and I'm gonna ramble on it and really blow this one thing up, versus a Nixon-esque line by line or like a more traditional competitive forensics type line by line. I would be very interested in, with a larger sample size, which of those two response styles is actually more persuasive. I would hope that line by line is more persuasive because it's like a logical syllogism of like, here's a point and here's our additional counterpoints, here's some evidence, and that's the conclusion. But I imagine probably not. I imagine like the reason why things are so soundbitey is because sound bites are persuasive.
Yeah.
Or at least at some like macro media level, someone's deduced that like in mass media, sound bites are the thing that persuade more voters to do the thing. Or they roll that way.
Or whatever issue you feel or your party feels has the most magnitude, just stick on that one because your weight, it's worth its weight to just spend on that than to go touch on other issues that may or not be as significant. I don't know. I just bring these things up because
but this is
the question.
Right? like, it's not just about like, oh, what can they do better, but like, what can we do to make the debates better? And I'm wondering if we should like lean more on the internet and technology to help that out. Like, I'm envisioning a website that's like a neutral website where both of them are kind of contributing, call and response type videos. Like an asynchronous debate, but
ongoing.
You have it. Yeah. You can have it listed, and in a way, the website itself is kind of the neutral platform, and both of them have equal sort of access to it. And there's like format on who speaks second, third, and fourth, and people can just go through at their own pace. It doesn't necessarily need to be some sort of live event that people tune into, but it's more like a record of the positions that they have, and you can go and access them however you want. And I don't know.
I think that would be far preferable. I don't think a candidate would agree to that as much because there may be fewer views. Well, I don't know. YouTube has kind of debunked that, right? Of like, if it's not at prime time on a Sunday evening, people won't watch. And then YouTube's like, here's 1 billion views of a cat sneezing. So like, maybe that would get more viewership and more impact for a candidate to have something asynchronous like that. Because then you get repeat views, right? It's not just at this time, at this place. You can have people watch over and over.
I question. I understand what you're saying, both of you, and I think that you're right. Like, the access to these things seems like you would have more people watching them, because if you were busy at 8 p.m. on Eastern time tomorrow, or whatever the case is, then you'd still be able to watch it at any time. But I question that, because we live in a world where everyone has access to the internet. And last night and today again, I watched the Nixon debate from 100 years ago, you know what I mean? And not everyone is watching these presidential debates tomorrow. And this kind of harkens to even like the old way of the news, where there was only 2 or 3 channels. And so these news networks would have massive ratings, and everyone would get their news in an hour, because there's only one person to watch. And if you miss it, then you miss it. So you want to watch it. And there's an element to the synchronous style debate that you plan it, you set a time, you tell everyone to be there, and they come and watch. That will never go away. But I really do like the idea that for the people who are curious about how these candidates respond to each other, it would be really funny too in early stages when there's 8 candidates. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, to really give them more access to talking to each other, because it always feels like two ships. The debates today, just like the rallies separate from each other in the same city, is just 2 ships sailing in the night. That's what we used to say in debate. That's what Jared Miller taught me as a professor. You don't want your competitive debate, you want clash. You want to meet that ship and fire cannons at each other and interact. But if 2 ships sail in the night past each other, that just means that, well, the whole time I talked about how the economy was good and didn't say anything about anything Jared said, and Jared the whole time didn't say anything about my arguments and just said the economy is bad, or whatever the case may be. Like the interaction is what we want. And I mean, that's how do you fix that in the presidential debate?
Yeah, it just seems like it got torpedoed in this last debate, because if everything's like sound bites, then like trying to talk over people right now, it becomes the way that you get the attention and you look tough and things like that.
Demeanor. So, I thought both Nixon and Kennedy, they talk like extemporaneous speakers. If anyone doesn't know what I mean, they sound kind of like newscasters. They don't move. You know what's funny is they don't move. They're very still, and they talk like Tom Brokaw. They're doing their best example of just, these are all the facts that I know, and I know a lot of facts. And you need to know that I have sources for these facts, and this general said this, and that's why I have this opinion. And like, there's just a lot of source citations, and the eloquence comes from keeping your attention. And I think both JFK and Nixon do that, but it's in a tone of facts and opinion on facts. And I
don't think that weighs as heavily anymore. I think
it doesn't get as many views.
Lots of people that can analyze the press and say like, well, this is the thing that people watch more, right? So I think you're right. Lots of people are not going to be watching it synchronously. They can be watching it online or watching it after the fact, so asynchronous would not have the same ad appeal. Someone made it pretty cynically, but someone made the point of like TV news stations just want to be able to sell soap and whatever the hell they sell between
Yeah.
their ads, and that's why it has to be a synchronous thing. Like all of those ads are the reason why.
Yeah, I think that like maybe there could be like a more of a choose your own adventure type of way of engaging it. You know what I mean? Like I just like that idea because you could still kind of like create that clash, you know. But if you make it so it's not like a spectacle, you know, at one time, if it's more like, you know, people are using this for information, I think that you can create like an environment online where it's not as much of a spectacle.
People are hungry for information. Like they really are. I believe that at least. And I think we're distorting our realities a bit because the forces that be really are focused a little bit on clickbait and sensationalized news and getting something that's just extraordinary beyond extraordinarily factual. You know what I mean? But I do think that people are hungry for information. And despite the fact that people think that we need to centralize, I do believe that there's room for, I would be more persuaded as a voter from someone who's focused. I mean, like a debater. Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think if you got to think about different ways to go about it, you know what I mean? Because now we're using this old medium, right? For a debate, and we're trying to make it, you know, more. Even though we're trying to update it, but I think that it's been co-opted in a certain way. So, you know, that you got to shake it up a bit.
Yeah. And do you have something, Tim?
Yeah, in the last debates, so in the 2016 election, when it was Trump and Hillary, that I would argue were even worse. Like the debates, even less content actually came through because there's so much bickering. So like hell, maybe the town hall is marginally better than that, but you know, by a different measure. So the third party candidate, Gary Johnson, just had his like press team record his answers to every question and his rebuttals to every refutation. And I thought that was a pretty interesting way of going about it. Like, you know, you don't get the other candidates responding to you, but like, hey, if you don't get to play in the game, like, sweet. This is a way that anyone that wants to see your views on it will get to see them directly and how you respond back. Like, I thought that was a kind of neat idea. So I think that plays a little bit to the asynchronous opportunity of issue-focused voters will be able to find the issue that matters to them in an asynchronous manner and analyze it.
I'd like to just take the last couple seconds here to talk about just the one theme that I really want to drive home with how to make debates better is respect. Respect for the process, for the game that you're playing in the debate, and for the other person across from you, right? And I realize that I guess, you know, we can all argue on who deserves respect and who doesn't, but one thing that I want everyone to take away from the Nixon-Kennedy debate was a person asked President Kennedy, at that time, just Senator Kennedy, what does it mean? Essentially, they asked this. What does it mean that the KKK will predominantly be voting for Richard Nixon? That was, in essence, the question. This is around 28:30 in the debate. And it's an interesting question because it perked my ears up. I'm like, oh, my goodness, what is he going to say? And he gives, I'm going to say about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, defending President Nixon. And when I say defending Nixon, what I want to make clear is he said, you know, that JFK in no way has ever said or inferred or implied that there was any affiliation between Nixon and the KKK. And like, kind of just, I got to be delicate with what I'm saying here, but what I'm trying to say is he very much was like, we can talk about some hot stuff here, but like, I am not condoning that argument that you're even bringing into this debate from the moderator. In my opinion, that's what he was doing. He was not going to, and I, again, have to tread very lightly when I say this, that everyone's entitled to their belief and opinion, but I just really enjoyed the fact that when everything is pure speculation as to what someone believes and thinks, JFK took it upon himself to protect the process and be like, look, we're trying to talk about things that I know, things that I am aware of, issues that I have facts about that generals have told me about. the speculations that you're talking about.
Like the solution to debate is more like audience. The audience has to look at it a certain way.
And disrespecting misinformation being misinformation, or what's true is true, what's not true is not true. So just like I love the fact that they respect each other in the debate space. That's what I liked. And that's my opinion.
All right. Well, there we go. That's our 30 minutes, everybody. We're going to come back next week. We're going to talk about some more stuff. And we got Tim Seavey, Bizolutions, Matt Shapiro, Esquire. I'm Jared Kubika Miller, your debate coach, professor of communications. Okay. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Have a good one.